All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. This has been probably the most massive offseason in Chicago Bears history. A lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on with this team. And there was one guy that I think was on the hot seat during all of this. How could Ryan Poles react? How could he kind of steer this ship in the right direction? Was he able to do it? I think this latest report has come out kind of now enveloping that he, in fact, has been able to. He's made some really great decisions this offseason. He's kind of been the mastermind behind everything that has seemingly gone right in Chicago so far. We'll get into that story in just a second, but first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Ryan Poles did a masterful job this offseason. I think his biggest move by far was the acquisition of Ben Johnson to come to the Bears. I think it was a really smart move, the way that he was able to line everything up. And I think the Bears executives agree as well that Poles has really shown some good GM work this offseason. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, over from The Athletic says the night before the Bears coaching search changed during the Detroit Lions playoff game against the Washington Commanders. Poles and Warren, talking about Kevin Warren, president of the Chicago Bears, briefly talked that night. As every second passed in what became an upset win for the Commanders, it looked more likely that action would be required. It was becoming time to go get Ben Johnson, literally. Poles basically said, we need to be ready to get on a plane to go to Detroit. Chairman George McCaskey said, in retrospect, I think Ben was his number one candidate going into the process, but I think Ryan was smart enough not to want to compromise the process by offering his opinion before we had even started the process. It was the most organized interview process I have ever been involved with, Warren said. Not for a coach, I'm talking about for an executive, for anyone. It was great to be able to see that come to life. I think this is a big change than we've seen from previous, offseason that the Bears have had. Kind of been hit, miss, but it seemingly this offseason has been a whole lot of hits, especially at this head coaching position. And it's seeming the strategy and the leadership of Ryan Poles is exactly the reason why. Here's what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, let us know. Ryan Poles, there's love him or hate him. I think everybody's on the fence right now. Some people say he's on the hot seat. Some people say he's not. But let us know, after hearing everything, after seeing everything that's gone into this process, seeing how he definitely navigated the acquisition of Ben Johnson, what do you think about Ryan Poles? Is he your guy? You want to see it through? You want this team that he has built to come through the season and see him as your future GM? Or are you still not in on it? You think that Poles is too iffy, has had too many bad trades, too many things that have gone wrong with this team, and you want to start over and you want a new GM? I'm curious what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on the future of the GM position for this team. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest out of Chicago?
So when you look into this report, and it's a long report, it's a great piece over The Athletic. Highly recommend everyone who has a subscription go check it out. It's a well-written piece, and you Bears fans will probably really appreciate it. But there's two things that really stick out, and that's what we kind of cobbled together here from the report to highlight, is that very early on in the process, Ryan Poles is like, Johnson's our guy. He's going to be our next head coach. He identified it right away. But he was very critical in how he handled his search. He was very methodical. He did a deep, detailed search. Now, did this mean he was ever wavering off of Ben Johnson? Absolutely not. Basically, what he did here is he made sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that when he recommended Ben Johnson, that Warren, McCaskey, everybody would be like, okay, fine, I agree, he's our guy. Because one thing that happens, and anyone who's been in any kind of corporate America, which obviously every NFL team falls under that kind of bucket, is that the more people you get involved in a decision, no matter how much there's a clear-cut number one path to take, people will pull you in different directions. Special interests will get involved. More people get involved. Everyone's got to throw their opinion in. There's paralysis by analysis. And suddenly your time comes and you miss the opportunity, or enough people people get involved and you're kind of forced to like find a middle road, right? Maybe someone didn't like Ben Johnson because he wasn't experienced enough, and someone really liked they like Mike McCarthy, formerly the Cowboys and Packers, and so you end up having to go with a middle ground kind of candidate instead of getting your guy, right? You don't want that to happen. Ben Johnson was obviously the right move, the right hire to make. So if you're Ryan Poles, what's the strategy you got to take? You got to be aggressive. You got to sit there and say, yeah, we want Johnson. And then you got to make sure you give every single one of your bosses, every single one of these people that may be involved in decision making process, proof that you did so much crazy effort, so much crazy work with an unbiased flair that the only possible logical move you can do is to hire Ben Johnson. And I've been there before when I worked in corporate America. If you want your bosses to do something and you don't want to like, if you force them down that path and try and shove it, they'll just push back just because that's how human beings interact. That's just how it is. I can't explain it. Psychology, whatever you want to say it is. What you do is you basically do all of this work and set it up in such a way, it can be a little misleading or a lot misleading, where you almost make it look like the only obvious decision, the smart move, is what you wanted all along, right? You basically force your boss to agree with you. And then you get them and say, go to your boss and say, here's my analysis. And your boss is like, I like option B. And what do you know? That's what you like the entire time. That's what Ryan Poles did here. And it's so freaking smart, right? It sounds obvious. It almost sounds stupid that you have to do it. But this is really how it works when you're dealing with human beings at the higher levels, even of NFL teams and government and business. This is just how it works. You got to be willing to play the game. And if you want to win, if you want to get the right people on board, especially when you're the Bears, like it or hate it, Bears fans, and sometimes some of you guys hate it, you've got a level of bureaucracy there. You've got Warren, you've got the ownership group, you of course got Ryan Poles, you got the business people, you got the football people, ownership group, right? You got a lot of things going on, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You got to make it, if you're Ryan Poles, so obvious that you're unbiased, that you did all this analysis, even if it's totally biased. I guarantee you Ryan Poles made in all his analysis and reports that he gave to his bosses, made sure that Ben Johnson looked great and all these other candidates didn't look as good. I guarantee you that's what happened, right? Because that's what anybody does in that situation. I've done that. And so he shoves that in front of his bosses, and all of them to a man are like, yeah, Ben Johnson's great. I looked at your results, I looked at your report, and he's the best candidate. And Ryan Poles is like, thank you, let's go get him. And they got it done, right? Again, is this something that should happen? No. Is this something that has to happen if you want to succeed playing this stupid political game in corporate America kind of stuff? It does. And if you're not going to play the game, you won't win. It's just a fact of life. Ryan Poles is some of the big moves he's made, some of the problems I think he's had as a leader is in terms of being the general manager, is he listens to too many people. He gets a lot of people involved and he gets pulled in different directions, and he feels he has to do certain things. He has to stick with Eberflus too long. He has to take this approach here. He has to take that approach there. What's Warren think? What's the ownership group think? What's the coaching staff think? If you are fully convicted and what the right move to make for your organization, whether it's the Bears or whatever, say, okay, this is the right play. The right play is Ben Johnson. You do whatever it takes to get it done, even if it means misleading your bosses, even if it means going through all this political silliness. That's what Ryan Poles did here without a shadow of a doubt. And guess what? It was the perfect play to make.
Yeah, Nick, and I think we've seen a lot of moves over the past couple of years that Poles has made, and you see the big ones that stand out. Obviously, the trade back, the DJ Moore acquisition, the first round pick acquisitions. That's a good Ryan Poles move. That's a big move that he made. The acquisition of Montez Sweat. That was another great move by Ryan Poles. But there have been other little like head scratcher moves that he's made that I feel like are the creep in of what you've been talking about. Just the bureaucracy. Think of the Chase Claypool trade. That doesn't really seem like, a Ryan Poles esque move. That seems like a creep in from the outside. Hey, we need to get another receiver. What about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? And just too many cooks in the kitchen, too many things going on right there, because that move absolutely just fell flat on its face. But I think every really big overarching move, outside of, I can't think of any that have really flopped. I think every big move that this team has been a part of under Ryan Poles has been something really successful, and it looked really good. The drafting Caleb Williams, getting DJ Moore, that trade back, getting Montez Sweat, now getting Ben Johnson. I think Poles, like you said, he is a guy that has a lot of great ideas. He's doing a lot of great things. He knows what is best for this team, but at first he had to deal with all the bureaucracy, and I think it shows he didn't necessarily know how to do that at first. It seems like he's learned, he's grown, And now we're seeing this Ben Johnson after action report come out and saying, hey, this guy played the game perfectly. He knows what he's doing now. In one of probably the biggest, most career saving moves he made, he had to go out and get the number one candidate for his team. He was able to play the game, play it well, and get the result he wanted. So I think this is showing Poles definitely is up for the job for the Bears. I personally think that he is the future GM for this team. I think these latest, reports, things that he's been doing shows he now knows how to play the game. He knew what the right moves were, but now he knows how to get it even when it's a little bit more difficult.
And for anyone out there watching this saying, this doesn't matter, does this really happen? It of course does, right? If you go back to the mid 1990s with the Cleveland Browns, they had a head coach by the name of Bill Belichick, right? And him, Belichick, and the owner, Art Modell, did not agree at all. And they had a stacked coaching staff. They were a playoff team. I mean, Nick Saban, defensive coordinator, right? They were just stacked everywhere. They were going to be an up-and-coming dynasty in the AFC. The Cleveland Browns were. Ozzie Newsome was in the front office before they became the Ravens, right? This was going to be a stud team. But Belichick and Modell didn't get along. Belichick didn't play the game. He irritated Modell. He would cut players, fan favorites like Bernie Kosar famously, that Modell was not happy that he wasn't involved in that decision at all. When it came time to stand with Belichick, Modell said, no thanks, so Belichick gets fired, right? That's just what happened. Belichick then later goes to the Patriots. What does he do? Works on a better relationship with the ownership group there, the bureaucracy there with the Kraft family and everything going on with New England. Allows the Krafts, give him some rope. He starts 5-11, then 0-2 in 2001. Turns it over to Brady. The Krafts at that point trust Bill Belichick. He's built that relationship. And of course, the rest is history. You have to play the game. You have to be willing to play the game. In the early 1990s, Jimmy Johnson, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, got tired of playing the game with Jerry Jones. He left, probably cost the Cowboys at least 1 or 2 Super Bowls. If you don't play the game, it won't work out in your favor. I wish it didn't have to be done. I wish it wasn't a real thing. I wish there weren't external factors like pulling people in different directions, but it happens. Anyone who's read the book or seen the movie Moneyball understands the GM's going into a meeting with a bunch of his scouts, with the owner and the coaches and all this kind of stuff, and everyone's got a million different opinions all over the place, and he's got to be the guy to actually pull the trigger. You can't make everyone happy. You got to play the politics, and you got to do it at a high level. Ryan Poles, I think when he first became general manager, he tried to play a little bit of everybody sometimes. All right, I'll make this big deal, but I'll do this little one here to help everything out. Or maybe Eberflus is the guy. I don't really know, but he's a veteran coach. He's a well-respected. I'll bring him in, right? The ownership group likes him. Bears defense, maybe it makes sense, right? No more. He's completely unencumbered, and he's making the right moves aggressively while also playing the politics to get the ownership behind him. Great leadership by Ryan Poles, setting things in motion. And when you do this from a general manager perspective, what does it do most importantly? It frees up your head coach. It frees up the coaching staff. It frees up your players to go out and execute and go out and win. This is what good leadership at the top of the organization does. Ryan Poles has made a lot of big moves, but we've seen this offseason, finally him come into his own, not as a deal maker, but as a true legitimate top flight GM.